Welcome back to Strong, everybody. I'm so excited to bring an incredible conversation to our episode this evening. Tonight, we're going to be doing something slightly different, but very exciting nonetheless. I'm going to be talking about eating disorders, body shaming, and teenagers, but I'm going to be bringing it from the perspective of a pediatric dietitian, and we're going to be talking about the cases that she sees coming into her practice and offering parents and anybody really watching this right now some tips and suggestions on what you can be doing if you are trying to recover from an eating disorder, or if maybe you're the parent, a guardian, or a teacher and picking up on some of the signs that there might be an issue with a young person in your life. So without further ado, I want to introduce everyone to Yasmine. Yasmine Haddad is working in Dubai in the United Arab Emirates, and she is a pediatric dietitian. She works with children and babies as young as 5 months old and all the way through to adulthood, specializing in family care. If you want to be reaching out to Yasmine at the end of this episode, you can find her at my Pedia Clinic, which is based here in Dubai. And if I'm not incorrect, in Healthcare City. Am I correct, Yasmine?
Correct, Dubai Healthcare City, right.
I'm so excited to have you here. I've spent many episodes talking to young people, having conversations with teachers and nurses about this topic. It is such a heated topic. I'm also a mom, Yasmine. I have 2 daughters. I have a son. I'm talking to you today not just as the founder of #Strong, but really as a mom. I'm a concerned mom. I have nieces and nephews, and this topic is worrying to me for so many reasons. So I really want to get into this with you today. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
I think, like, when I was thinking about how do I begin this conversation, originally we were going to have 2 of our previous guests on. Unfortunately, they couldn't make it tonight because of some personal reasons of their own. And we were going to be talking about their specific needs and asking you for some support on how you could be helping them. But I think right now I want to take this opportunity and think of any young person out there watching this right now that might be recognizing there's something wrong, and maybe a parent, maybe a teacher, it could be a nurse in a school that's kind of suspecting there might be an issue, but not quite right. Let's start with this topic as a taboo topic. It kind of feels like a taboo topic. Would you say that this is a topic that people dance around and don't really want to talk about with young people?
Yes, so basically, it is a lot of people, the person going through it sometimes doesn't admit it to themselves. And the people around them, they're not always educated enough to know what to look for, okay? And it is a very important topic because it is on the rise. And let me just give you some statistics in terms of the eating disorder prevalence, and the age group. So 95% of eating disorders happens between the age of 12 to 25 years. And children with anorexia, so the children that have anorexia, 25% of them are males, and 75% are females. So this is in terms with regards to anorexia. And from there, I would like to highlight the difference between the different type of eating disorders, because they all fall under the DSM, so diagnosis. It's a mental illness, and we do not choose to have it. It happens. It's a mental illness that needs intervention. But there are ways to approach the matter. It's a very delicate matter. And it is, unfortunately, unlike other illnesses, like, for example, high blood pressure, diabetes, fever. It's shameful. It's not, people feel like, oh, I'm not good enough, I'm going through this, or no, there must be something wrong with me, I cannot discuss this, people will think bad of me. But it's not, you didn't choose to feel that way. So it is very important to categorize it under an illness, and specifically mental illness. And the types of eating disorders are binge eating. So only recently was it under the, like in 2000, I believe 13 was it classified as an eating disorder. It's over, as we know, like obsessive and compulsive, increased, fast eating without, feeling, it's binge eating is becoming more and more common, and it is linked also to emotions as well. And the people who don't have control over their lives tend to try to, control or not control their eating patterns. Anorexia, on the other hand, is so people who suffer from anorexia tend to restrict their eating, are usually are underweight. So there is atypical anorexia, actually, and there is anorexia. So anorexia nervosa. Anorexia nervosa is, so they are underweight. They are very slim. You can sometimes it is obvious to the eye that someone is excessively underweight. And it is also sometimes atypical. So when it's atypical, it means that they are portraying signs, so other signs of anorexia, which are restrictive eating, distorted body image, distorted relationship with food, but they do not, you cannot, they are not underweight. So their weight falls under the normal BMI, normal range. So, and it is becoming more also common, atypical anorexia. This is why I wanted to highlight it as well, okay? And bulimia nervosa, on the other hand, is, so it sometimes goes with binge eating. So they overlap. You can have more than one eating disorder at a time. And so when I say bulimia, there are different types of bulimia nervosa. So some people may try to they binge eat, and then they try to get rid of the foods through means of purging, so vomiting, and so self-inflicted, self-induced vomiting. And some will try to do excessive exercise, and by excessive, it's obsessive compulsive exercising, like continuously. So I will give you an example. I ate a cookie. Oh my God, I have to go to the gym and burn that cookie. So there's like that intense fear of putting on the pounds and feeling the need to take it out or burn the calories. Orthorexia also is on the rise now, and it's this obsession with clean eating. So to the point where some people may cancel some plans to go out and eat with friends because at restaurants they have no control of what's on the menu and where is the source coming from. So for example, when it comes to orthorexia, I'm giving like they're obsessing about the ingredients, about the calories, about like, oh, it has to be gluten-free, it has to be organic, it has to be this. So it's really like to the point where it affects their daily life and mental health.
Just before, I know we're going to get into all these different types of eating disorder. I don't want to overwhelm everybody with all the terminology. Let's go backwards a few steps. So thinking as a parent right now, and I'm hearing you talk about anorexia nervosa and bulimia and the different symptoms that you would see. And I'm thinking back to the conversations that I've had with guests who were as young as 15 and remembering their stories in their 40s, and teenagers who are 19, and just having these conversations. They were always talking about when it started for them. And for many of them, it started when they were in their early years, almost 9 and 10 for some of my guests. You describe it as an eating disorder it's a mental illness. There's a mental, it's a mental illness. And can you talk to us a little bit more about what that really means. Because when I hear you say mental illness, I know mental health is a big topic right now. We're talking about it all the time. I've spoken with professionals who have told me, Maria, the more you talk about it, the more we are making teenagers want to do this. I'm hearing schools of thought telling me, no, we need to be talking more about this because it's really happening. I think it depends on the angle that people are taking, but what I really want to understand is, what do you mean by mental illness, and what are some of the signs that parents should be paying attention to if this isn't just about eating, if this is a bigger issue than just food?
Right. Yes. Very interesting observation, Maria, because it is mental, and when I say mental, I mean that there's no shame in asking for help, and by help I mean psychiatry, therapy, so psychology, and they do sometimes CBT, so cognitive behavioral therapy is needed, and the number, whether or not you need medication, or the number of sessions may vary from person to person, from case to case. And this is why it's very important to tackle it early on, because the longer this lingers, the harder it is to overcome it. And it can even affect become detrimental to our health. In what sense? When you are restricting yourself from food during anorexia, for those suffering with anorexia nervosa, you are, sometimes they go down to as low as 500 calories a day. And I've seen this at the clinic. You have teens and they say, I want to lose weight. I want to be thin. I will be accepted if I'm thin by my peers. So you have the bullying that takes place in schools. So you have body shaming. You have big curves. Oh, this is not nice. Go and lose weight. Or haha, look at him, he's fat. So these labeling or criticizing someone's weight, whether it's coming from from people in school, whether it's coming from parents, and believe it or not, the percentage of bullying among families is even higher than it is in school when it comes to weight shaming. Okay, and unfortunately, I understand parents don't intentionally. They don't have a bad, of course, they care for, it comes from a good place, but it's not, the consequence of this is not good. So if you have most importantly, if you have a child that is overweight or struggling with eating, like in terms of because you mentioned 9 years old, and yes, 9 years old, it does, because self-esteem, teenagers, children, their body's changing, they're trying to understand, they have mixed emotions, they're very vulnerable. So it's very important to use our words and approach them in a specific way. So you cannot be like, stop eating, or you're gaining too much weight. Look at your brother, he's half your size. These words stick. These words get them to skip meals. So skipping meals. Oh, I don't want to have dinner. I'm not hungry. Or hiding. Oh, it's okay. I'll eat in my room. And this is when the binge eating happens. So they'll just go, or maybe sneak in at night, open the fridge. Okay, like uncontrollably eating alone, because they are scared to have people watching them eat, because they are being criticized all the time, and also the body shaming. So that's why a way to help reduce the risk or this developing the eating disorder, because there are some people who have higher tendencies. So let's say teenagers or children that come from broken homes, they have more vulnerable, and also that's why, I'm not saying that it's a cause effect, but it is important to have the family dynamics plays a big role as well. So when as a nutritionist, I always ask So I don't ask only about what do you eat, what have you been eating, how do you feel, what's going on in your life, how's your relationship with your parents, with your food, with this, with your teacher. So these are all important factors, because how we feel affects also our eating, even among children, actually, even among children. And so going back to your question of what to look out for, the signs is they have very low self-esteem. So there's the distorted body image, and so they tend to wear very baggy. So I've had patients, for instance, teenage girls, they came to me the first time and they were wearing like hiding, like beneath their clothes, hiding their bodies. So very baggy jeans, very baggy t-shirts, all the time baggy. I mean, because they don't want to show any, they're shy. Anyhow, so this is one of the signs. I'm not saying it means, so that's one of them. And then by the last session, they were wearing more, like tight, more like fashionable clothes. Had more self-confidence in their body, in themselves. And the second sign would be skipping meals. So I'm not hungry, I'm fine. So skipping breakfast, skipping dinner, constantly skipping meals, going down to around 500 calories, obsessing about calories. So I'm reading the label every 2 minutes. Oh, this has like 5 calories more than this. Oh, I can't eat this. No. Or new studies have also shown that people with eating disorders, especially teenagers, they tend to hide or mask behind vegetarian and vegan diets. Why?
So
because
I'm listening to you here, and I'm like, well, this is a lot of information to really be digesting. So I kind of want to backtrack a bit for anybody watching this that's kind of feeling, we're going all over the place at high speed. Let's go backwards. Some of the things that you said that you've noticed with the young people is they'll hide food in their rooms and they'll binge. They don't like to be eating around. Another thing I heard you say is parents have the best of intentions, but sometimes the things that they say is actually a lot worse than what they're hearing when they're around their friends. So give us some signals, like tell us what are some of those phrases that you've heard parents saying that you think, oh no, you don't understand, this is really not landing well with your children. What would some of those things be? Because I think as a parent, I think, well, I'm always trying to do what's best for my child. How do I know if it's something I'm saying something wrong? Because we come from a different generation when, parents said things to their children and like nobody really analyzed it. So what are some of the things we should be really thinking about before saying?
Well, for example, I hear that a lot. Yes, unfortunately, in Arabic and in English. He has a huge tummy. Look at his tummy, how big it has become. He looks like he's pregnant, for example. And another one is he eats so much. He eats like 3 times, 4 times more than me and his father, or like more than us. So this, what does it do? It starts it builds doubt in the children, because people, we are born intuitive eaters. Even a baby, he's full, goes like this. He will give you signs. A baby's full is full. I am full. I'm like not, and I'm done eating, and I'm hungry. They will cry. They will ask for food, so that's why trust your child's like hunger and fullness cues. He's hungry, he's growing, he or she is growing. But it's not about asking for food, it's about giving the wholesome food, and food that is gives energy to the body, that's more. Another thing I will tell you about is they tend to categorize food as bad and good. And this also creates not only picky eaters, but it also creates, some sort of like unhealthy relationship with food. Like, you're not allowed, like parents actually sometimes throw tantrums if the child, could be toddler or as you said, 9 years old and above, eats sugar or a piece of chocolate. How dare you eat this piece? Who told you to eat this? So this causes like, this is too much. You are having too many sweets. And so this constant, like the child, when they constantly hear this, it gets them like scared, and either they will eat it behind, like in hiding, or they will stop eating and restrict themselves and start like having a guilt feeling every time they eat. So it does end up building up and cause unhealthy relationship with food and low self-esteem and. So what are the ways? I'm not saying like the parents should look out for what the child is eating. Yes, this is why offering a variety of food, offering balanced meals, planning your child's meals, smart snacking, giving like different options of snack. Your child is hungry, make sure they're eating, but eating like a balanced meals, like vegetables, some fruit, some whole wheat bread, like
it all sounds so easy, and I'm listening to you and I'm thinking my kids won't eat those things. So another thing I'm thinking is, we do pack the lunch boxes with the fruits and the vegetables. We can't control what they're actually going to eat when they get to school. And also, how do we know that they're not hungry? How do we know that it's not a fad? Or how do we know that, being thin is what, when I look at magazines right now and I'm looking at social media, I see what is supposed to be a woman model, but I'm finding out that they're actually young teenagers modeling women's clothes, for example. We're looking at perfection. I interviewed a guest, Michael, a few episodes ago, and he is a professional model and has a modeling agency. And he was talking just like you about, changing the mindset of his models into eating healthy, into exercising healthy. But, he said one of those issues is they have to look a certain way or they'll lose an opportunity. So as a parent, and I'm hearing what you're telling me, I'm thinking, I'm doing everything I can, but how do I know what they're doing when they get to school? So before you give us tips on how to feed them, let's go back and
to the signs, what to look out for.
Yeah, let's go back to those signs. So one of the signs you said is be careful of the language parents you're using with your children. Be careful of the remarks. He's eating too much or he's eating more. And actually, I like that you're using he as opposed to she. Usually when we think about eating disorders, like you said, looking at those numbers, it's 75%. It always seems to be a larger number of females than it does males, but we know that eating disorders exist with young men and they
Correct.
just look different. They look different. So what are the signs? You see them, they bring in their children. Are you only seeing families that are bringing children who are overweight, or do you see families who bring children in who are underweight or average weight, and you can pick up on there's a potential issue that we have to deal with?
So I see both under and overweight, and also normal weight, but the majority overweight, majority of UAE population. There's a high prevalence of overweight and obesity among children. And the lockdown and Corona, the pandemic didn't help because there was a lot of, so there was like the emotional aspect of being in lockdown and having a pandemic, wearing masks. Okay, one. Two, there was like a sedentary lifestyle. So everyone is now more behind their screens, behind their phones. And as you said, there's like all the filters on the phone, all this like what a perfect body should look like, and how you're not accepted by society. You don't have a perfect body. And this is why what I'm liking also about the social media, there is a rise in no for the diet culture, no for being, perfect because you are perfect how you are, self-acceptance, self-love, So there's also, you have both online, okay? So this is why it's important for parents and for such as yourself and also teachers and schools to raise awareness, because you can't always control what's out there. You know, like for example, there are, I can see like on you, like let's say on the YouTube channel, on a lot of different channels, there are ads for like fast food or junk food, and you can't always control the what's around the child. You try as much as you can, but it's important. The real weapon here is education. So education comes first. And when you educate and you show that as a parent that you're there's like that trust that like you're good, self-love, then I know, as you said, it might not always be easy. It's always easier said than done. And this is why we are here. So you can always consult nutritionists, so pediatric nutritionists, and as well as therapists if there's of course a need. And I work alongside different psychologists who are specialized in eating disorders, and because what I do is part of the journey of self improvement or treatment for eating disorder case. And so the other signs are weakness, fatigue, dehydration, so hair loss, irregular period, also known also complete amenorrhea is common among teenage girls. This is when the child or the teenage child is not eating well, so there's malnutrition that takes place, and there are certain tests to be done, and it's very common to have iron anemia. So iron deficiency when you're not is the first indicator as well. Magnesium, vitamin D goes down, calcium goes down. So brittle nails, like the other twice I've seen two different cases, and they both were fainting in school. So they were referred to me by the school counselor because they were fainting. So the counselor told them, you need to see a nutritionist. This is, means you're not eating well, something is. So they came to me, and this is when I noticed that there's a need, there's an intervention needs to be done here. And sometimes parents think to themselves, that's why I wanna like really highlight this. I can do this. I can do this on my own. This is my child. I know her. She's not eating. I'll make her eat. She's weak. I'll make her, stronger. The thing is, it's, as we said earlier, eating disorder is not really, it's not your fault. It's not her fault. It's nobody. It's a mental illness. So if there is a need for intervention, and the intervention also is very critical. Why? Because you cannot force someone to seek help, right? So that's why the first thing is to look out for the signs. Try to, gently discuss, different topics with the child, understand where is this coming from, this behavior, and then maybe if you feel like, okay, I need another opinion, a professional opinion, then you get, more information, because sometimes the child may have like a negative, like, I don't want to see, I'm fine, or how can you, no, I'm, an anorexic could be like, I'm fat, because I had a child, she was like normal weight, a teenage girl, and she came to me with her mother to lose weight, and she was on the borderline, so normal, borderline underweight, and she was on 500 calories a day. And the child, usually their calories range from 1,500 to 2,000 plus, because they're growing, they need energy, they need at least 5 meals a day, and so on. So this child was eating 1 meal a day, and sometimes just water. And she wanted to lose weight desperately. So I had to this is when I gently, nicely asked the mother to step out, because why? Sometimes you need to discuss this with the, alone with the person, like the teenage girl. I had to see like if there's anything she wanted to share with me without anybody being around. And so it's important to discuss these topics with the child and the parent separately, because sometimes when they are together, you may get some missing information, on some things may not always be clear to you during the nutrition counseling session.
Yasmine, I'm just listening to you, and I'm just thinking this awareness that we talk about. How do you approach the focus of awareness when a parent or an educator might be in denial, or might be thinking, no, stop talking about it. You're making it an issue. It's not an issue. I'm hearing this a lot with parents of teenagers, and I feel that it's because they don't know how to approach a topic, or they're kind of concerned that if we talk about it, then my child will be affected by it. But what I want to know is, how do you approach this when you're talking to a parent who is in denial and saying, no, you're exaggerating, it's not that bad?
Can I share something with you? I was an overweight child, and I used to be bullied in school as well as at home. And so I tell you this from personal experience. It's not pleasant. And a lot of times I would hate myself for this and not understand why, and I would not, I would skip dinners. And even once I tried to self-induce vomit, but it didn't go beyond that. So it's just really, that's why I think I went into nutrition. This is why I went into nutrition, because I always wished that my mother took me to a nutritionist that is specialized in eating disorders, or that is familiar and has extensive experience in that matter. Because when I went to the pediatrician at the time, that was in Syria, the pediatrician did not help. He actually aggravated my condition. He's like, your child is overweight. It's not healthy. She needs to lose weight now. This is very bad. How do you think a child would react to this?
So is it subjective based on cultural norms, the issue of weight, or is it, is it a multicultural? It doesn't matter where you come from. This topic is affecting our teenagers, and it doesn't matter whether you come from, this country or that country, or you eat this way or that way. Our children are being affected by this. We need to be really having this conversation and making it an international type of topic that we discuss.
It is. Actually, Maria, it is international, and it is, there's no shame in admitting that you have it, that your child has it, that, I'm just saying there's no shame. It's letting it linger that can aggravate the mental illness and makes it goes deeper and more engraved, and it's harder to treat. And there are so many ways to get help. There are like a lot of people specialized and teams that can help you go through it. And this is why it's important to read the signs, as we said earlier, and seek professional help, or even if there's a teenager here listening to me, you can just discuss it with someone that you feel comfortable with, trust them, tell them what you're going through. And you don't always have to directly go, because everyone is different and every case is different. So what I'm trying to say is the approach may be slightly different from, or the steps that you take might be slightly different from person to person. But so it's just that the thing is, when I discuss this with the parent, how you were asking me earlier, how do we, approach it at the clinic? So I make them understand how important food is. So food is crucial to us humans to live, to function, for our bodily function. So there's this unhealthy relationship with food that a nutritionist will help break down and get their relationship with food better. And then you have the therapist that will help their relationship with themselves get better. And there are a lot of times there's an underlying factor that led to the eating disorder. Could be severe, could be depression, anxiety, that triggered the eating disorder. Okay, so it's not always let's say social media or bullying or this or that. Could be, it's a little bit more complex than that. And
so I want to take this further now, because we're talking about the youth, but let's face it, our young people are being they're watching their role models, parents, teachers, friends, aunts, uncles. We're role models. When you're having clients come in and they're bringing in their child, do you work with the adults as well? I often find myself criticizing what I look like, or withholding. Yeah, it's so important to have these conversations, right? I withhold pleasurable events because I need to lose 5 pounds, or I haven't worked out in weeks, or I won't do this, or I won't eat this, or I won't eat that. And I have children, so I know that I'm having an impact. My
very true.
My relationship with food is having an impact on my children, and I know that my children are being affected by this. So parents say one thing, but do you see, in your clients, do you see that they're doing the opposite, and it's a double message that is just not working with what we're trying to do with young people?
Actually, I'm so happy you mentioned this, because I don't know how it slipped from my mind, but yes, parents play a big role, because yes, they are the role models. And if the parent themselves is having insecurities, or they keep checking their weight or looking at themselves in the mirror, this can reflect on on the behaviors of the children, and on their self-esteem. And that's why, yes, it's a family affair. Okay, it's a family. It's really about the parents being more, getting the diet culture out of the window. Like, oh, let me go on a soup diet today. Let me skip my meals today. So when the child sees this, to them, this is normal. Then this is normal behavior, and they do adapt it to themselves, and they say, okay, my mother or father thinks they are. They look really fat or big in these jeans or something. So also this will get the child feeling super insecure and so on. So yes, this is important. I do work with families as well. So parents, sometimes I have also I encourage doing it all together, because it really starts at home and as a family, as a unit. So even with whether it's with eating disorders, weight management, not weight management, but having more balanced, healthy nutrition, this all plays a role. And so I think, one more thing I wanted to add.
It's a big topic, isn't it, Yasmine? It's such a big topic. We're definitely not even going to scratch the surface tonight. We're going to have more conversations about this. And just before we start winding down this conversation, what would you say are your top 3 tips for a parent watching this that's concerned that their son or daughter is either eating too much or not eating enough. Maybe they are concerned that they're, hiding food in their rooms. Maybe they're concerned that they're, covering up, as you said, wearing those baggy clothes. And we're not sure, is it a trend to wear these clothes now because they seem to be wearing them? Or is it a sign that we need to be watching out for? So what are your top 3 tips?
So that's why it's not about one sign. They're all can come together, and sometimes that's why it's important to look at, as we said, for physiological signs, behavioral signs, and any reaction. So if they get also very defensive, discussing certain things, and the way we approach, so not to focus more on health over weight. So that's my tip to parents. So if you want to, like we said earlier, watch how the words you use, because the approach is very important. You want to help your child, yes, but sometimes the way we do it may actually trigger something or aggravate something. And also you have to seek help if you have any question marks, any worries, because it's a bit like you can't sometimes, reading about it or seeing the signs and all that may not be enough or may not be. So there's no shame in asking a professional advice on how to move, or what to take the next step if you feel there's anything that. And another advice is encouraging, so habits, like healthy habits, as well with sports. I want to pinpoint that because you said it earlier. It's very common among athletes, ballerinas, to have also those eating disorders. Why? Because there's always that, or even what is else, gymnastics, very people that are very professional at it. I'm saying at a professional level, because there's that pressure. Even trainers can affect a child. Oh, you look like you put on weight, telling a 12-year-old, this is not good for your jump today. You need to, lose that weight. So trainers need to be careful what words they use. Parents, dietitians, nutritionists as well, because you can have a child and be like, oh, no sugar, no ice cream for you. No. So this building this, unhealthy relationship, because restricting foods will cause eventually certain binge eating behavior, obsession with something. So it's really this, food is not the enemy. Okay. It's really
Yasmine, food is not the enemy. I'm going to quote you on that. Food is not the enemy. I don't think it's the enemy. I don't think we think it's the enemy. I think it's something we love, and we love it so much. We think that we're not allowed to have it, but there's so many things about this conversation. I really do think it comes down to us, role models, what we're doing. We think carefully about what we say to our children. I know that, when I'm talking with guests, or if I'm having a conversation with professionals or with parents, we think so carefully, or we try to, with the best intention, what to say to our children.
True.
But we're not doing that with ourselves. And another thing, Yasmine, and I wonder if you see this as well, is we compliment each other when we've lost weight.
Oh my God. Yes.
We compliment
Maria,
each other
amazing.
when
you're
we've lost
in
weight.
My head. You're so good. I had it in the back of my head, and you're so good. Oh my God.
and we compliment each other. And when we receive the compliment, we either say, oh my God, no, I've gained weight. We're too shy to say that it's true, even though we might have been working really hard on it, or we thank them. Oh my goodness, thank you for noticing. I've been working so hard to lose the weight.
Wow. So
You
glad
know,
you
and
brought
it's
it up.
it's these subtle things that we're saying, or you know, if we look at the influencers. So you mentioned about on social media, we are seeing two sides of it, but I will challenge that and say what we're seeing, or what I tend to be seeing in my research for #strong, is influencers are allowed to gain weight. Influencers are allowed to be vulnerable, and influencers are allowed to talk about their journey with food. And we look up to them and we put them on pedestals, or by we, I mean what we're seeing. But the everyday person is not allowed to talk about their vulnerabilities. It's almost like it's taboo. We can't talk about it. It's taboo to notice it. It's taboo to understand. So many things I'd like to talk about. I'm so conscious of the time. Yasmine, just before we go, tell us about where we can find you, because I know that we need to have more of these conversations, and I hope that anyone watching this really wants to talk to a dietitian before they talk to a friend, or before they buy that next book, that next fad book on juicing or cutting carbs, or you know, eating more protein. I think they should be reaching out. So where can we find you?
I'm at my Paediatric clinic in Dubai Healthcare City. And also you can follow me on my page, because I'm trying now to really raise awareness for families and mothers, parents. It's not easy being a parent, of course, especially nowadays with everything that's happening. Kudos to parents really out there for all the efforts and what they're going through. And so I have a page, nutrition _by_Yasmine, that you can follow. I have nice recipes, because it's really like about getting creative, doing fun things, nourishing your body. And as you said, not to label anyone by, the scale, the number on the scale, the weight. So, oh, you've put on weight, you've lost weight. Any of these like comments may have an impact. How do you look energized, you're glowing? So it's all about, when you eat well, it shows, it reflects on your overall, and this is how you look stronger. And even for a child, when you tell him these things like, oh, you're so strong, you're so smart, because they're, even school performance improves when they're eating well. To make them understand how important is to eat a balanced meals and being, healthy and so on. And another point is about like no to restrictive dieting as well. So all these like diets out there, diet is really yo-yo dieting has become so common, increasing, losing, and it's not getting you anywhere. Sustainable eating is mental and as well as health, both. So if you work on these, you will understand, and you will get sustainable, results, and even your blood test will improve as well.
Thank you so much, Yasmine. It's been such a pleasure talking with you this evening. I keep talking forever, just very conscious of our time. This brings us to the end of an incredible conversation. If you're just tuning in now, I was speaking with Yasmine Haddad, who is a pediatric dietitian, and she works with young people and families, helping them to enrich their relationship with food and really begin to see the healthy aspects of the nutritious food and how we can be helping our children. Join us again next week when we bring an incredible guest, Shara, who's going to be talking to us about her incredible journey into her life and how she became a young professor at Curtin University here in Dubai as early as her early 20s. Thank you everyone for watching, and we'll see you all next week.
Thank you, Maria.